Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, Gordo Gambles, and welcome back to another full card breakdown. This time for UFC 285, we have one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year. We have Jon Jones and his return, and it's just a star-studded card to break down for you guys that I'm looking forward to doing so. 14 fights on tap. Quickly, we had a great week last week. Not only did we sweep all our bets here, but some decent DraftKings plays. Of course, that cancellation of the main event ruined a lot of DraftKings thoughts, but we're here to get it back. Last week we were gone on vacation. We had a bit of a poorly edited video, but we're back in our hometown. Been back for less than a few hours, and we're feeling the wrath of the Canadian weather out there. Like I'm back for one night. There's my car. Named her Valentina too, Val the Volt. So Shevchenkov's fighting, but that's the real Valentina out there. And yeah, well, Val the Volt is struggling outside in the snow. We're inside. We're here to break down a star-studded card filled with the likes of Jon Jones, Cyril Gane, Valentina Shevchenko, Alexa Grasso, Bo Nickal making his return. Making his debut, actually. This guy's 3 fights, but he is a minus 2,000 favorite. So many things to break down. I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get into it. Quickly before I do so, 2 things. First of all, hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, please do. I appreciate that very much. Second of all, let's do a little giveaway here. I have had a decent amount of growth. I kind of want to give back to you guys for supporting me, so it's going to be a real simple contest. All I want you guys to do is comment down below your top 3 DraftKings scores this week, just like this. If you guess all 3 correctly, or the person who gets closest to the top 3, I will send them over 25 bucks your way, just as a thank you for showing me some love on this channel. So please comment that down below. More details to come at the end of the video. But without further ado, let's get into it. We have the newcomer Esteban Ribovics versus the other newcomer in Radzhabov. This fight is the first fight of the night at 155, and it was just recently announced. Radzhabov is stepping in on short notice. They do not have DraftKings salary at the time of filming this. I'm going to assume they're going to slot in that 9K and 7.2K range because of their price tags, not just because where I have them lined up in my head. So let's pretend like they're there for the sake of this breakdown. Esteban Ribovics, 11-0, fought in a contender series, impressed in doing so. He's a decent regional guy with some very, very good power, very good cardio actually, but I saw able to put out output for those 3 rounds. But just like many people in the regional scene, he's fought very, very low level of competition. The guy has not fought the best level of competition. When he has stepped out in the cage, he has done very well. He's disposed them accordingly. Very good arsenal, whether it be ground game, solid striker. He has been able to live up to the task at hand every single time. The question is, he's fought nobody. He hasn't really had much resistance against him. How is his defensive grappling? How is his defensive striking? How does he fare when facing adversity? There's a lot of questions surrounding Esteban Ribovics. His opponent, Radzhabov, has fought the way better level of competition. There's no question about it. PFL title contender, was supposed to appear in The Ultimate Fighter. I think they made room for Conor McGregor's guys, so instead he's here fighting on this card. Good for him. Go right into the UFC. Don't worry about anything else. And he's getting a matchup he could probably win. Radzhabov's a guy who has fought this much better level of competition. He's been in the cage with some much better guys. We've been able to see how he fares in this higher levels. He's got great wrestling, good offensive boxing. He's got the good ability to control people on the ground, and he's just showed that he is a solid fighter. I think that if he was on The Ultimate Fighter, he probably would have won it. He is very, very good at what he does. I think the big question mark around him, though, especially this week, is that cardio. It was already kind of questionable in the PFL when he's had a full fight camp, and now he's coming on short notice, facing a guy who I already mentioned, Ribovics, can go all 3 rounds at a high pace. Is Loic able to keep that up? That is really the red flag for me, because when we look at the person who I think is going to be quicker to the punch, I think it's going to be Radzhabov. The guy's going to have the ability to win minutes with his takedowns and control time. It's probably Loic. It's just the X factor. Who can I trust more in the spot? You have to think it's going to be Radzhabov, but Esteban Ribovics is going to go out there. He's going to throw up submissions anytime he's taken down. He's going to be dangerous off his back. He's going to be dangerous for all 15 minutes. The guy does not stop throwing volume. He's very, very dangerous at all times during this fight, and I can't really say the same about Radzhabov. So although I think Radzhabov is the rightful favorite, he is the more talented fighter who we've seen more from at the spot and deserves to be favored. I don't know if I can trust his price tag. He will not be one of these fighters I'm looking to go out there and parlay on the money line, because of course there's a lot of huge favorites this week. And although I think he's a fighter who should probably win this more than Ribovics does, I think Ribovics is the more dangerous fighter and probably a better DraftKings option. If he slots in at 7.2K, you have to think his path to victory is going to be finishing Radzhabov late when he tires out, or catching him with his very explosive power or active ground game. You have to think that the more finish equity comes from Ribovics, whereas the more minute-winning, fight-winning potential comes from Radzhabov. And I think that at 7.2K, if that's where he slots in, Esteban Ribovics is going to be a pretty decent option to get the night started. Of course, when we're talking about this first fight of the night, I go to my same mentality. They're trying to showcase violence and showcase a fight that's going to bring these viewers in. And this one seems like it's going to fit into that mold. I do think it's going to be a very, very fun fight. I'm going to have to pick Radzhabov to win this fight by decision. Although if we're looking at DraftKings, I do think Ribovics is the better option. Next up, Farid Basharat 9-0 versus Damon Blackshear 12-4-1. This is a fun fight. Farid Basharat, the brother of Javid, is a very, very good, talented, undefeated prospect at his weight class, 135. He's a guy who fills out his frame pretty nice, has very, very well-rounded components, and a very, very good takedown defense, which he's going to have to need to rely on against someone like Blackshear, who is primarily a wrestler. Blackshear had his UFC debut against Youssef Zalal, and in a draw because he did gas out, and he was dominated 10-8 in that final round. Not the best look, but you have to forgive him a bit because it was on short notice. I think that when it comes to looking at this fight from a whole, there's two perspectives. Basharat's going to absolutely light up Blackshear on the feet. I think that Basharat's a much better technical striker. He has more power. I think he's just going to be quicker to the punch all around, and he should be winning these striking exchanges. The X factor is Blackshear's takedowns, and he does have decent control, decent takedowns, but against, again, Basharat, who has shown nothing but exceptional takedown defense, it should be Farid Basharat's world. This is where these lines can be talked about, because although Farid Basharat's minus 500 and he should win this fight a lot of the time, he is not going to go out there and exemplify the price tag of minus 500, in my opinion. I don't think he's going to go out there and blow Blackshear in the water. I think he's going to be winning these exchanges closely. You're going to be a bit nervous. I think he wins this fight a lot of the time, but in doing so does not live up to that price tag, if that makes clear to you. And for that reason, I don't know how much of him I want on DraftKings either, because at 9.1, if you're not going out there and you're dominating, if you're not going out there and getting a finish, you're not going to score that well. You're not going to be able to outscore the people around you. People below you like Plessis, Saimaan, Ricci, and not even come close to people above you in Rakhmonov, Garry, and Shevchenkov. So Basharat for me is a guy I'm kind of staying away from on DraftKings, because I do think the most likely path to victory is him to piece up Blackshear on the feet, stuff the takedowns, and win a decision. How well does it score? Not that great in my opinion. So to me, although Basharat should win this fight at a very, very high clip, I can't roster him up too much on DraftKings, and I do think the fight can play out close enough that I don't know how much I want to parlay Basharat either. Next up, 14-6 Jessica Penne versus the 7-1 Tabitha Ricci. I love Tabitha Ricci. She has cashed so many tickets for me, from lock of the night plays to unders in the Fior fight. She has done very, very well for me, and I do like backing her. And actually, last time these two fighters were lined up, I was able to snag some Ricci at around minus 170, I think it was, and that line is completely gone. This fight was rebooked, my ticket's gone, so there's no point in me talking about it, but Ricci's now a very, very sizable favorite. At minus 275, as much as I thought she was going to win this fight before, it becomes kind of an unplayable line. Because although I do think she is the better fighter, the younger one with a clear path to victory, you can't really count out Penne. I think it's kind of disrespectful for the line to be so wide, because Penne is a fighter who with decent skills, and although she is getting older, she's a decent enough defensive game to kind of cause problems for Tabitha Ricci. And it's going to be a step up for Ricci, in my opinion, who has fought really lower levels of competition within the UFC. But if we take a step back and we look at this fight and we think who is going to win this fight and how are they going to do so more often, it's Ricci by decision. She's got great takedowns, great timing on them. She's able to control her fighters from top position, and she's able to do that for all 15 minutes. Just ask Vienna, just ask Oliveira. She was able to control them and score 93, 99 points on DraftKings in the process. So although I do think Tabitha Ricci wins this fight, and although I did want to bet her at minus 170, as the line gets wider, it's hard for me to look at her and see a parlay piece when there are such good parlay pieces on the board already. And at 8.9K, it's hard for me to have the urgency to play her as a huge favorite on DraftKings, because her ceiling's nowhere near the same as Cameron Saimaan or Dricus du Plessis. And if we're looking at floors, I think Basharat just got the same amount of floor as her. So I think Ricci wins this fight. I think she does so by decision and looks decently dominant in the process, but she's not one I'm running to roster on DraftKings, and not one I really want to parlay either, because of how inflated this line is compared to the first time. Next up, we have the 10-3 Mana Martinez versus the 7-0 Cameron Saimaan. Saimaan is a guy who I've talked about already in the show, and someone who is a very, very young prospect who I've tried to fade and not gone so well yet. And that's something you got to own up to. I rostered a little bit of Kozlov last time against Saimaan, and I did think Kozlov's opportunities, but I did try to fade him as well on the Contender Series. And you know, Saimaan's shown he's got the goods. He's a guy with a very, very good offensive skill set. He's shown the ability to have great cardio and durability through 3 rounds, great power, and he's able to string through his combinations. But I still believe there's holes in his game, and one day I'm going to fade him successfully. I just don't know if Mana Martinez is the right guy to do so. Mana Martinez, 10-3, I've backed him as well in the past, and although he came into the UFC with so much hype, he hasn't really lived up to it. He wasn't able to dispose of the older Guido Canetti. He fought very close with Brandon Davis. But I do think Mana Martinez has skills. I don't know if this is the best stylistic matchup for him. Mana Martinez is a striker by trade, has great power, but what he lacks is takedown defense and the ability to withstand a ground onslaught, which Ronnie kind of brought to him. And although he was able to survive that and not get finished, it's not a style that's when he fights too often, because Cameron Saimaan does have that wrestling in his back pocket, and I do think he's able to use it. However, if we're looking at the way I see this fight playing out, and I know I talked about the wrestling being an X factor, I do believe Saiman's okay to trade on the feet for 15 minutes. I do think Saiman's okay to go out there and want to box with someone like Mana Martinez, who probably won't do so well on the long run. I think that Amanda Martinez does not look anywhere near a plus 220 underdog if he strikes the same in 15 minutes, because he is a very, very talented, powerful striker. It's just that X factor of Saimaan. If Saimaan is not a fan of what he's seeing early on, he can go to that wrestling. I do think he dominates Amanda Martinez in that wrestling. Overall, it's a fight I want to target on DraftKings, though, because I do think it is a very, very high pace, good volume. Saimaan has shown to be a great DraftKings scorer so far, with 2 back-to-back round 3 finishes because of his cardio. He's able to keep a pace and maintain it for all 3 rounds. Whereas Amanda Martinez, if he wins this fight, 7.4K, he's going to have a good score because he has the ability to string together lots of punches, very good output. And this is a card I'm kind of struggling to see dogs that win a lot of the time. So although I think that Saimaan has more tools to get this done and should win this fight at a pretty high clip, Amanda Martinez has the path to victory, but that path to victory more so relies on him stuffing the takedown and striking 15 minutes. And I don't know if I can rely on Amanda Martinez to be able to stuff those takedowns or rely on Saimaan to not shoot any in order for Martinez to be live. So official pick will be Saimaan by decision, although I am looking to have a little bit of involvement on Martinez on DraftKings. Next up, we have the 10-0 Ian Machado Garry versus the 19-6 Kenan Song. Song we haven't seen in a while, but he is back facing the hype train, or sort of a hype train, Ian Garry, undefeated prospect, a guy who is getting a lot of hate in the UFC, but has also done very, very well for himself. I think he came in with too much heat, and then he didn't really meet those expectations, so people are low on him. But he's getting another setup fight. I mean, matchmakers love Ian Garry. They give him a lot of favorable matchups, and this seems to be another one. I mean, last time we saw Song Kenan, he was getting knocked out by Max Griffith. Not a great look. And although he does have 3 knockout losses on his record, they are to Brad Riddell and Israel Adesanya, aside from Max Griffith as well. So, very weird list of opponents he's fought, but he's been around for a while, and it's just overall a guy who I don't see having too much success. If you're going to beat Ian Garry, you're going to have to overwhelm him, pressure forwards, and look for takedowns as well. I think that in this spot here, Ian Garry can be able to control distance, strike from range, and also mix in takedowns if he wants to. I mean, he has that in his back pocket, and he mentioned that he wants to showcase his grappling, to which he'd be able to probably decimate Song Kenan in the grappling. I think Song's only chance is to go out there and look for a brawl, and although you can hit Ian Garry, it's not going to be easy in this spot. Ian Garry's going to have the youth advantage, the reach advantage, the height advantage, all the immeasurables. He is the more active fighter, the guy who's going to probably, the UFC wants to win this spot, and I do think he gets it done pretty easily. The problem's the price tag, because he's like minus 600 right now, and although I do think he gets it done at a pretty high clip, I don't know how much value you're getting from parlaying him. I do think he wins this fight, so I think DraftKings way to target him. But $90 million, he is an expensive favorite. He hasn't really showcased too much from a DraftKings scoring perspective, with 3 fights averaging 88.8s in his wins. Although I do think this is a fight he's able to win and probably finish against this guy in Kenan Song who has been finished before. If you're looking to bet this fight, Garry could be a potential parlay piece, but probably wins at the distance as well. I think Ian Garry is a very good GPP play due to the purpose that he's a pivot from Nickal and Shevchenkov, although to do that, you're taking extreme risks. Weird fight to call, but I think it's Ian Garry's fight to lose. He should get it done any way he wants. Give me Garry, but mostly as a contrarian play. Hard to fit him into your lineup otherwise. Next up, Julian, the Cuban Missile Crisis, Marquez versus the Canadian Marc-Andre Barriault. Marc-Andre Barriault is one of my favorite fighters because his style is a hockey player. For those who don't know, I grew up playing high-level hockey my whole life. That is my, that and MMA are my favorite sports. That's a sport I play the most. And Barriault exemplifies a hockey player. He'll get into the clinch, dirty boxing, no regard for his own mental health. If it was up to him, he'd have one hand on the shoulder and he'd pound, because that's what he does. He's got great cardio. They call him the power bar. He's able to fight through hell with a good variety of durability most of the time and ability to walk forward. Julian Marquez, similar thing. He likes to wear his opponents down, get that late finish. He has a decent amount of power, but he's never won by decision. He's not a decision-winning guy. He's a guy who has a good guillotine, decent submission game, and lots of power, and looking to break your opponents down the stretch. I do think Marc-Andre Barriault wins this fight, but I think there is a clear way to target this fight, in my opinion. It's the over 1.5. Marc-Andre Barriault is not a finisher. Let's get this to people's mind. He is a decision fighter, a guy who wants to break people down the stretch. Aside from the one time his chin was cracked and a Jordan Wright fight, in the UFC, he's never gone under 1.5 rounds. In fact, he goes over 2.5 rounds a lot of the time, and that's why I'm so confused as to why this line is set at over and under 1.5 rounds. Now, for those who know me, I love betting violence. I love betting my unders. I am backing an over here with decent confidence. I think if we look at this way this fight is going to play out, does Julian Marquez has the volumes or takedowns to really implement a decision-winning game plan against Barriault? Not really, and I think that Barriault has more finish equity in the spot. Give me Barriault by decision, and that's plus 375 in betting markets. On DraftKings, though, it's a tough one, because if this is a fight I see going all 3 rounds, do I want ownership of this fight? Do I think it plays out like the Patola versus Marquez fight? That's a fight where, even though Marquez won the fight, he only scored 73. And against people not named Sam Alvey, Marquez has never scored above 85 points. The guy isn't always the best DraftKings scorer, and this is a fight where I do think Barriault should win it. by decision, so I'm not getting too much ownership of this fight. For me, I'd rather target it from a betting market perspective, take the over 1.5, which is something I never say to do. It should be a fun one, but I think it's one that is more extended than the 7.5 minute mark. Visual pick though, giving Marc-Andre Barriault by decision. Next up, Viviane Araujo versus Amanda Ribas. Two Brazilian ladies going at it. And I think this should be a fun scrap, but not one I want too much DraftKings ownership of, especially on the Ribas side. I don't think Ribas is going to have too much success in this fight. I think what she has to rely on is the cardio fading of Araujo, and I don't know if that happens all too much with the style Ribas does. I think if you want to count on the cardio of Vivi failing, you're going to have to push the pace yourself. And I don't know if Ribas has that. I think this is a fight that's going to be low owned on DraftKings, and for good reason. I don't think Ribas has much finishing equity. And I think although Araujo does have some, she's not the best scorer. I mean, she's never scored more than 100 points, never in the triple digits, and she's on a card with some insane finishers, some insane people with violence. Not a fight I'm targeting too much. I think I'm actually going to pick Viviane Araujo to win this fight, although it's not one I don't know if I want too much of a financial investment on. See, that was a quicker breakdown. That's how they should be, but this fight card is packed with just these great fights, including this next one that need a little bit of longer time to break down. 23-8, Derek Brunson, 18-2, Dricus du Plessis, and this is an interesting one because Derek Brunson is supposed to be retiring, he says, of this fight. I don't know if those talks have died down. I don't know if that's still looming. I don't know if that's apparent to anybody else, but because Derek Brunson was on a tear in this division, and when he won 5 straight, was scoring very well in the process, but the one thing always remains the same for Derek Brunson is his cardio and his chin, and he's facing a guy who is the opposite. Dricus du Plessis, although he looks extremely tired, is always able to push forward with decent cardio, and he has shown great durability so far. Dricus du Plessis is a violent man. A finisher. 19 of his 20 fights have ended inside the distance, and I think this one is no different. Dricus du Plessis is a guy who wants to go for the kill at all time, and I think against a guy in Derek Brunson, most of the time when you beat Derek Brunson, you're killing him. And I think that du Plessis has the ability to do that here. Derek Brunson's the more likely minute winner because he's got the ability to take people down at will and control them. He's a fantastic wrestler. Du Plessis has shown that he can be taken down. The problem is every fight starts on the feet, and every fight goes more than 10 minutes. So if Dricus du Plessis is able to stay in the fight and not get finished by Brunson, I think he has the cardio, power, and durability advantage to be the more likely finisher. I'm on the under in this spot. I think it ends more times than it doesn't. And I think this is a great fight to target. Because look at the two paths to victory. If Brunson wins at 7.5, it's going to involve takedowns, control time, and could kind of look like the Shabazian fight where he scored 103. If du Plessis wins, it's probably by finish, and he's going to add to an already incredible average score of 105 points per UFC fight. Either way, if I'm betting on violence, if I'm betting on a good DraftKings score, I want ownership of both. However, I do think du Plessis is able to find the chin of Brunson over his few chances at doing so and knock out Derek Brunson. Maybe sending him into retirement, who knows. Give me du Plessis at 8.7K. Give me this fight as a whole on DraftKings and some violence. Feature prelim 12-5, Cody Garbrandt, ex-champ. Let's not forget that. Trevin Jones, 13-9, and this is the easiest fight to break down. I'm not going to spend too long on it. Cody Garbrandt is a million times better than Trevin Jones. Do not let that fool you. Trevin Jones is not a great fighter, but he has very good power. Well, how ironic is it that Cody Garbrandt's one flaw is his durability? You have a guy who is insanely good with one hole in his game versus a guy who's not so good with one good aspect in his game, and they coincide. The question is simple. Can Trevin Jones find the chin of Cody Garbrandt? Because if not, Cody Garbrandt is going to style on Trevin Jones, in my opinion. For that reason, I'm picking Cody Garbrandt. I know it's always dangerous, and I'm not saying bet on Cody Garbrandt with lots of money because I won't be doing that. Cody Garbrandt cannot be trusted. His chin's a liability, but I do think he's an overall better fighter and minute winner. So I played Cody Garbrandt, decision, plus 500. I think that line's out of whack. I think I don't see Trevin Jones winning any minutes here, and he's been a pretty durable guy. So if Garbrandt wants to win this fight, 15-minute from distance, avoid the power bombs, and win a decision, I think he can do so. On DraftKings, though, I mean, you can't look past Trevin Jones because at 7.7, if he wins this fight, it's probably by knockout. But other side of things, Cody Garbrandt, 8.5. Do I see him knocking out Trevin Jones? Not too often, and for that reason, I think there are better options on the slate. Instead, I'm just going to hope that Garbrandt is kind of cautious, plays from the outside, and cash him that plus 500 decision ticket. Main card time. This fight's going to be even shorter to break down. Bo Nickal, 3-0. Jamie Pickett, 13-8. I can put my feet up for this one. Sit up here and say, yeah, hot take. Bo Nickal wins this fight. I don't think that that's too different. Minus 2,000, I think he's minus 200 to win inside the first round. He's going to absolutely destroy Jamie Pickett. And what they're doing is they're building a guy in Bo Nickal, and they're giving him Jamie Pickett to do so. Bo Nickal's got great takedowns. I don't even know why I'm breaking this down. Bo Nickal's going to win this fight. He is like Tatiana Suarez last week on DraftKings, as he's a very, very safe option. The only reason you don't play Bo Nickal is if you're trying to get different. Betting wise, prediction is going to be round 1 sub for Nickal, which you can find a decent price on DraftKings, I think minus 120 for the sub. This is a showcase matchup, and it's hard to play a fighter who's minus 2,000 on the betting market. But what you can do is you can play him on DraftKings. So $9,600, just like everybody else, I will be very high on Bo Nickal. Next up, 13-5 Jalen Turner, 21-2 Mateusz Gamrot. And I love Jalen Turner. I mean, I met him in person. Let's throw this picture up right here. What a great guy. Tall dude, too. And he has a great frame for this 155 division. He is a very, very dangerous man. I have cashed some good under 2.5 tickets when I've been betting with Jalen Turner, but he's facing another dangerous man who's coming in a short notice, Mateusz Gamrot. 21-2. His losses are to Beneil Dariush and a controversial loss to Garam Kutsaladze. As much as I love Jalen Turner, I need everyone to remember that although it was controversial, Gamrot beat Tarzukian, and he has beaten some very, very good guys in this division. Although he is coming off a loss where he did not look good against Dariush, he is a very, very, very talented 155er. And although Jalen Turner, I also think is very talented, also very, very dangerous, I can't back Turner with as much passion as everybody else seems to be. Because Gamrot not only has good durability, cardio, and ability to mix it up on the feet, he's got that X factor for that takedown game. Turner was taken down and controlled by Pravola. He was taken down a few times by Malarkey as well. Jalen Turner, although he's super lanky and dangerous, can be taken down. I think Gamrot has the style to beat Turner a lot of the time. But looking at this fight from a DraftKings perspective, Jalen Turner, his path to victory is probably a knockout, probably a finish, or catching Gamrot with that insane submission game he has. I think at 7.6K, the Tarantula is a great DraftKings option because he does have a decent path to victory. I think he does have the ability to win from range as well. I think he has the ability to get a finish. I think he is an underdog with multiple paths to victory that can score very well. Although if we're looking at this fight from who I think is going to win, I think Gamrot's going to win this fight, and I'm going to have to predict him to win. And in doing so, he's going to be able to score decent on DraftKings as a favorite as well, with takedowns, control time. I want to cheer for Jalen Turner. I just have to pick Gamrot to win this fight. I think he is the better overall fighter and the guy who has a clear path to victory here. Give me Gamrot to win, although I will be cheering for Turner and probably rostering both sides on DraftKings due to variance. Another big favorite, Shavkat Rakhmonov, 16-0 versus the 15-4 Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal, he showed a resurgence. He destroyed Vicente Luque. Lost some money on that. All power to you, Jeff Neal. You did great. He looked like a reinvented version of himself, because we all know Jeff Neal. Hands of Steel has insane power. Cannot discredit that, but he's facing a different animal. Shavkat Rakhmonov, 16-0. He has absolutely dismantled a lot of this division so far. Great power on the feet, great technical striking, but what he has is an insane takedown and grappling game. And I think that's going to be the X factor here against Jeff Neal. Because on the feet, this fight's going to be close. I think Rakhmonov can win at striking exchanges, but Jeff Neal, we all know, is a great, powerful striker with some pretty good volume to back. And over a 15-minute striking affair, Jeff Neal could have the better of Rakhmonov in certain exchanges. The problem is Rakhmonov has that extra path to victory, he has the takedowns, he has that killer submission game, and we have seen Jeff Neal taken down before. So don't get me wrong, I think Rakhmonov wins this fight a lot of the time. I think that I'll be probably betting him inside the distance here. But Jeff Neal's no guy who you can just run over very quickly. I think he's going to have some chances. I think it's going to be a very, very fun fight. And it'll be one where we're going to see how good is Shavkat Rakhmonov really. So the pick is Rakhmonov at 9.2K. He is another viable option of many to get that win inside the distance and score very well in doing so. But on the flip side of things, I will have more Jeff Neal ownership at $7,000 than other people in this price range, because I do think he has a more solid chance to win than Song Kanon, then Alexa Grasso, then Jamie Pickett. And I do think he has the ability to go out there and win striking exchanges if those striking exchanges occur. Overall, though, don't think they occur, so give me Rakhmonov to win this fight. Give me him by submission. Time to put some belts on the line. 125, Valentina Shevchenko. Val the Volt is back in action versus the 15-3 Alexa Grasso. Valentina Shevchenko, one of the greatest women fighters of all time. She's a beast. We all know her. We all love her. And as always, she's at 9.4K on DraftKings. Alexa Grasso has shown to be an insane striker as of late. Great technical boxing, some decent ability to mix it up on the ground. But when we look at this fight, it's hard for me to picture any way that this fight's going to go other than Valentina Shevchenko taking down and dominating Alexa Grasso. To a lot of people, they have this fresh memory of Taila Santos coming so close to beating Shevchenko. To some people, she did beat Shevchenko, and they're thinking Grasso can replicate that. That's not Grasso's style. She's not as physically imposing as Taila Santos is. Valentina is going to be the much more dominant fighter in the clinch, the much better wrestler in my opinion, and even on the feet, she's going to be more powerful and have the ability to mix it up with Grasso on the feet. I think the only way that Grasso wins this fight is if Shevchenko's injured and doesn't want to throw any strikes in the feet. Because in all reality, Valentina's going to clinch up, take her down, and dismantle Alexa Grasso like she's done to many opponents before. So another quick breakdown. I think Valentina Shevchenko wins this fight. I think she's a decent parlay piece. I honestly think she gets her done inside the distance, so maybe that's a way to look at the bet this fight, but it's not the best stylistic matchup for Grasso. I do think Grasso's a solid fighter in my opinion, but I don't think she has the physical abilities to withstand the takedowns or defend them as well as other people have in the past, allowing Valentina to just impose her will once again, adding another stone to that belt. And finally, we have the main event of the evening, 26-1 Jon Jones versus 11-1 Ciryl Gane. This is one of the most highly anticipated matchups that I remember in recent history. I mean, we have the return of one of the GOATs. I don't think Jon Jones is the GOAT, but he's still fighting, so he still has the chance to go out there and achieve that status, and that status runs through Ciryl Gane, a guy who was on top of the world, who's favored to win the belt and who has the interim belt. And the question that looms is, how is Jones going to look at 265? Because we all know he's fighting with the best 265ers in the world. I mean, Yorgan Castro, Dontel Mays, Maurice Green. I mean, he's fighting with a great camp. But there's no denying that the skills that Jon Jones has is one of the best we have ever seen. I mean, this guy is in the GOAT conversation. We all know what he's able to do, able to mix it up everywhere. Great striker, great wrestling. It's just, is he able to replicate that at his bigger frame? Although you're getting a guy who is phenomenal technically on the feet in Ciryl Gane, you're getting also a guy who is taken down and controlled by a guy on one knee who doesn't have the wrestling credentials that Jon Jones has. So when I'm sitting here and I'm picturing this fight and looking at ways it could go, the most likely winner in my opinion is Jon Jones. Because although Ciryl Gane has the ability to walk around the cage, strike from distance, maintain range, be a great kickboxer, because we know he is, I don't see him winning him the fight all that often. Because Jon Jones is going to press the issue, he's going to walk forward, crowd the kicker. We know he's an insanely smart individual in the cage. And it's so hard to picture these flaws from Jon Jones when we haven't really seen them yet. Is Ciryl Gane going to clip and knock out Jon Jones? Well, Gane's not the biggest power puncher. But is Jon Jones be able to take down and dominate Ciryl Gane the same way he was able to take down the light heavyweights opponents? Again, so many question marks. All this to say, I think Jon Jones is going to win this fight, although I'm not convinced enough until I see more information from him as a heavyweight. And for that reason, I don't know if I want to bet this fight. I don't know how much I want to have one. I don't want to cloud my enjoyment of his return, but the official pick is going to be Jon Jones. On DraftKings is another fight you want to have. It's 5 rounds. In all reality, this could look like the Reyes fight where he's only scored 85, but Jon Jones, we all know he has that takedown in his back pocket he could probably use. I do see myself playing Jon Jones in GPP, but he's not a must-have. If you do think Ciryl Gane is able to maintain the distance, again, he's not always the best striker. I mean, this could also look like the Rosenstrike fight where he puts up 94 in a win. These guys aren't must-haves, but they're good fighters to have because they have pretty high floors and very high ceilings. I just think that there are so many unknowns that it's kind of hard for me to put my foot down and predict a winner to score this much. So the pick's going to be Jones. I think he's able to implement wrestling, win a close decision. But in doing so, how well does this fight score on DraftKings? If you're looking to take down the solo GPP tournament, you can honestly fade this fight because this fight's going to accrue a lot of ownership. But if you're playing multiple entries, mix it up a bit, get both these guys in here. They do have high ceilings. But pick is Jones. I'm just hoping for a great fight. But with that, guys, we've just broken down the entire UFC 285 card from both a betting and DraftKings perspective. Quickly going to give you my quick picks. I'm going to pick Loic Radzhabov, although I do think Ribovics keeps it close. Basharat, Ricci, Saimaan, Garry, Barriault, Araujo, Plessis, Garbrandt, Nickal, Gamrot, Rakhmonov, Shevchenkov, and Jones. Very, very chalky card. I wish I could give you guys some big dogs that are going to win, but I think these fighters are favored for a reason. A lot of them are close. On DraftKings, Bo Nickal's season, of course, but he's going to be very high owned. I think that dog-wise, you're looking at Ribovics is a very possible option. You're looking at Amanda Martinez, Derek Brunson, Jalen Turner, and then you're going to want ownership of the Gamrot-Turner fight, Duplessis-Brunson fight. Wow, I've been talking for a while. And you know what? I apologize for this video being so long. There's so many good fights. I had to take the time to break it down properly. If you guys have any questions, though, please leave it in the comment section down below. DM me on Twitter at GamblesGordo. Let's talk fights. This card is amazing. It is going to be a very, very fun Saturday night, and I hope everybody's able to enjoy it. I hope to keep this hot streak going, and I hope you guys are all able to succeed thanks to the things I am putting down in this video. But before you guys go, hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel, enter the contest, comment who you think your top 3 scorers are going to be on DraftKings this weekend, and I wish everybody the best of luck. Enjoy the card, everybody. Let's make some money.